Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric and Countdown to Christmas 2021. 'Tis the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature is stirring, because I'm making this video. Both kitties are cooperating and taking a nap at the moment, and my other housemates are off doing their own projects, so that I have a few moments to come to you and share my final message of 2021. I've been thinking maybe of doing a spinning video on New Year's Eve, but I'm kind of going back and forth on whether or not I'll do that. And if I did, it probably wouldn't be posted until the next morning. So yes, I think this is the last video that I'll be making in 2021. I wanted to share with you all how much joy and happiness I've had in providing these countdown videos this year. I was a little worried at the beginning that they might be a little taxing for me, but they have given me so much joy. And I have to say, as far as run-ups to Christmas goes, this has probably been the most peaceful one I've had in a very, very long time, if not ever. The focus on sharing the message of joy, sharing the message that through our creativity, through giving ourselves permission to unwind, we really can find a peace that then carries over into the rest of our day and the rest of our life. And when we find that peace, it makes it a little easier to deal with the bumps in the road that tend to come up for all of us. So as I thought about what was I going to talk about on this last countdown video, this Christmas Eve video, I thought, let's talk about tradition. I love hearing about how other people celebrate Christmas from around the world to next door. Everyone does the tradition of Christmas just a little bit different. Depending on what holidays they celebrate, depending on what cultures they come from. This time of the year, people just have tremendously wonderful ways of trying to bring a little bit of joy and light to this dark winter season. Now, I know for those of you that might be in the other hemisphere and maybe having sunshine and longer days, it's not quite as symbolic, this run up to Christmas, a time in which we're trying to bring more light into a world that has less sunlight. But I think that the message of Christmas, the message of these holidays, resounds regardless of whether or not you just had the winter solstice start or the summer solstice start. I think no matter what the sun is doing, we all can use a little bit more light in our daily lives, a little bit more joy. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that we have done in the past and what we do now as we celebrate Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. When I was a little girl, like many people in my situation, living in a community that at least one of my parents had grown up in, we spent Christmas Day at least with one set of grandparents. In my case, both of my sets of grandparents lived within a 30-minute drive of where I lived. So Christmas Day was split. I wish I could say it was split 3 ways equally. A third at my own home with my brothers and my parents, a third with my mother's family, and a third with my father's family. But that wasn't the case because we lived on a dairy farm. And so Christmas traditions, Christmas celebrations had to happen around the times we had to take care of the animals. And so as a farming family, Christmas dinner was always around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I think, if I'm remembering correctly, we would try to get the second feeding of the calves in before heading over to see my dad's family, probably for more of an evening Christmas get-together rather than early part of the day. The reason I'm not quite as positive about that is because, of course, like many people, those traditions stopped when my whole world changed when I was 12 years old. And I cherish the memories of those early years, but I think I cherish more what came next. As I've said in an earlier video, I love the notion of making gifts for family and friends. My brothers did not like that idea nearly as much. Well, when I was 12, Christmas changed because sometimes the only gifts in my house on Christmas morning were the things that we might make, or one special gift that we asked our mother for. And honestly, I can't really remember a ton of the presents I received before I was 12, but I do know that when I was 13 years old, my mom bought a book that I really wanted. A hardbound children's book that one of my teachers had read to me when I was in elementary school. And it was really out of our budget, but it was the only gift I received from my mother and my brothers that Christmas. And I cherished it, and I cherished the memory of that year of really paring everything back and thinking about the one thing that would bring us the joy, the one thing that didn't necessarily need to have all the wrappings and the trim. And I started to learn that year how important it was to cherish the memories, both the memories of the Christmases before and the memories of the Christmases that would come, because I couldn't take it for granted that I could have Christmases with all of these people. At that time, when I was 13, I still had 2 sets of great-grandparents. I should say, 1 set of great-grandparents and 1 great-grandmother still alive. And so I could still do Christmas with my mom's parents and with my mom's grandparents. They all lived right there, and we still did Christmas. We still went and saw them sometime in the week leading up to Christmas. We still went into Great-Grandma Grazer's house and ate her handmade candies. Oh my goodness. We still went and saw Great-Grandma Bert, and we, no matter how old of a grandchild or great-grandchild we were, she still had the dollar bill for us. When I was really little, it was a silver dollar. And I remember she always had a silver dollar for us and a little jar of candy that she'd made. And she'd pass them out and we'd get a big hug. And I remember her house. And I have those memories. I have the joy of those memories. And I was able to have those people in my life much longer than I know a lot of people do, especially these days. And it was through seeing them, it was through seeing how they celebrated Christmas, it was through seeing that it didn't matter what was under our tree or not, or under their tree for us or not, but the hugs and the sweets and the secret sweet handed to us when mom and dad type wasn't watching. What I loved about it is that there was always sweets. And it helped me appreciate that sometimes the greatest gift is just simply that hug and maybe tucking into your hand an extra piece of fudge. Here, don't let anyone see this. And you think you're special and you think you're getting something that is just you. And that is a tremendous gift to give a child, even a young adult, and even a full-grown adult. Giving a gift that has them feel special, feel like they're seen, feel like they're heard. That is a gift that no hardship, no change of status, no change of home, no change will take that away. Giving that gift that you think they are special. That is Christmas. So, as I grew older and then I went off to college, Christmas became more and more just at my grandma's house. As my great-grandparents passed away, as things changed, Christmas, especially by the time I went to college, Christmas was my mom's house. The woman that I've shown you so much of her creations, the Santa and Mrs. Santa behind me. Christmas was at her house. The years I could come home for Christmas when I was in college, I went to her house. I'm the one that decorated the tree. And those years, I got to certainly understand the frugal mindset of a Depression-era woman. A woman who raised her children at the tail end of the Depression and at the tail end of World War II. And so when I'd come home, the first thing she'd want to do is go off to the local, I will use the term five and dime, the local thrift type store. We all know them by different names today, but we would go to those stores and the first thing she'd do is, I think you need underwear. You need new underwear. We're going to go buy you new underwear and we'll buy you some new shirts. And so we would go and buy discount priced shirts and things I needed so that when I went off to college again, I'd be a little bit more prepared. And you know what's funny? That time spent with her doing those shopping has much greater value than, yes, the dollars that she and Grandpa would put in an envelope and give me before I headed off to college again. So I learned a lot during those years. And then came along the getting married, having very few pennies to rub together, making the ornaments on the tree, and 2 small children. And then it started getting a little harder because my husband, who also comes from a family that didn't stay together into his teens, he still saw both of his parents on Christmas, and we lived near where they were as opposed to my own family. And everything was wonderful. We did the split. We'd do Christmas Eve with one, we'd do Christmas Day with the other. And it worked until the year I had my daughter. And that year, much like the time that we are in right now, there was warnings to us, especially those of us with brand new babies, that we needed to keep our Christmas travels and keep our activities limited, because otherwise our little ones could be put at risk. And I took this very seriously. And unfortunately, my in-laws did not. So, it's really tough when you have a little one that's not even 2 months old. And you're trying to put their safety first, and your family members aren't necessarily on board with it. It's tough when you have 2 little ones under the age of 2, and you miss your own family. You miss your mom. You miss your grandma. My grandmother had already passed away. My great-grandmother was still going strong until that summer. But it's really tough. When all of a sudden you find yourself, and I know a lot of people out there understand that today, when you find yourself at odds with the people that you love because you're trying to protect someone who needs a lot of protecting. And so, a lot of things changed that year. And we adjusted, and we moved forward, and over the years, things got better, and different traditions started. And one of the things that I started doing was I started making Christmas pajamas. And I remember one Christmas Eve, my husband staying up until midnight with me, past midnight, so that the Christmas pajamas would be finished and under the tree. The following years, the Christmas pajamas were finished before Christmas and were one of the presents I opened on Christmas Eve. Because of course, when I was little, that was one of the things we did. We got to open one present on Christmas Eve. And I decided that instead of just opening one present on Christmas Eve, we were going to have the kids open one present of their choice, and the squishy one that they knew was pajamas. And then we would put on our Christmas pajamas, and my husband even got in the spirit a little bit the year that I made cool t-shirts for the boys. Actually, for all of us, but cool t-shirts to go with the pajama bottoms. But every year, there would be Christmas pajamas, and I'd put on my big Christmas muumuu, and the kids would put on pajamas. Sometimes my daughter would have a muumuu to match mine. Sometimes it would be pajama tops and bottoms to match her brother. Either way, we did that. And we did that until they both left home. And it became a little more difficult to do the Christmas pajamas just for where they were at the time, and the fact that they were no longer growing out of them, and we thought maybe it would be better to have them wear out of them before I made another set. So that was one of the things we did. But then came along a couple years ago, Christmas 2019, a time in which my son was in Germany and my daughter was in Mongolia. She was with the Peace Corps and he was with the military. And the thing is we had one Christmas in which they weren't home. Both of them were actually together. The Christmas we moved, we realized that we'd be moving over Christmas. We knew that there might be a possibility of being a lot of chaos, and we made a decision early on, even before we knew there would be issues. We made a decision early on for her to fly from college directly to see her brother and spend Christmas with her brother in Germany. And then fly back to Virginia when we should be in our home. And if some horrible situation happened and we wouldn't be in our new home, she had friends that she could stay with until she returned to college. So we had been through a Christmas where neither of the kids were home with us. But in Christmas of 2019, they were not only not home with us, but neither were together as well. And that was a first for us. And thank goodness for technology, because we set up a video chat and we were chatting, my son in Germany, my daughter in Mongolia, and it is truly one of my favorite Christmas experiences and memories, because the video, the picture that we have, the snapshots that we took of the little screen here and the little screen here and us squoze together down here, you know, those are so cherished, because you see them in their world, you see them in their life. They're living their own path, they're on their own journey. And it warmed my heart. It warms my heart. There will probably be other times in which that's how we do Christmas. But that Christmas, there was one other situation that we had not encountered before. And that was, my son was 6 hours ahead of us, and my daughter was 12 hours ahead of us. And my husband, whose job has to be done every day of the week, every day of the year, he was working Christmas morning. So we thought about it, and we thought, you know, the best time for us to unwrap presents and spend time together was Christmas Eve. It was always our favorite time as a family. We always enjoyed our time together with Christmas Eve. We enjoyed Christmas Day, but Christmas Eve was quiet and it was special. And so that year, through technology, we did Christmas together, Christmas Eve, so that on Christmas Day, everyone could wake up in whatever time zone they were, do whatever they wanted to do for Christmas, and we didn't have to wait. And I had never realized until that Christmas how much stress Christmas Day had caused me. And for those of you that have health problems, especially the ones that people can't see, you will know what I'm talking about. The stress that comes from having to oftentimes say no, not yes, to the invitations from friends and family. Because you don't know. You don't know until Christmas morning if you will have any energy to go and do the whole social interaction. And you, no matter how many times your loved ones assure you it's okay or try to make accommodations for you, you still have the stress and worry that you will be a burden. And I know there are a number of you who understand what I'm talking about. And that Christmas, where we did everything on Christmas Eve, I woke up on Christmas Day and, oh yes, I missed my kids and I was immediately, video chatting with them. And I missed my husband and I was checking in with him. But I could do it in my moo-moo and I could do it at my pace. And if I woke up at 4 in the morning, couldn't go back to sleep, that was fine. And if I woke up at 10 in the morning because I could sleep, that was fine too. And it seemed to be the culmination of the journey that I had been on since I was a small child, where Christmas was interrupted because we had to feed the animals. Christmas is supposed to be about peace. It is supposed to be about love, and it is supposed to be about joy, and it is supposed to be about sharing this with our loved ones. And when that is not the focus, but all of the running around and the toing and froing is, it can turn Christmas into something less Christmas and something we just don't even want to mention. And for someone who had been struggling and had finally been diagnosed only a decade before, that Christmas, having that stress released, not on my shoulders anymore, it was wonderful. And I pray regularly that as I move forward and as my children have their lives separate from mine, that is something that we will be able to bring into the larger family and friends that we associate with. That message is one that we will all continue to share. So, the one last thing I wanted to share tonight is one of the things that helped me and my family years ago start treating Christmas Eve a little more quiet and a little more reverence and a little bit more peace. I am pretty sure this is not a book that I had when I was a child. I'm pretty sure my mom found it at the thrift store when my children were little. And it is a book about the Nativity. And in the very back of the book, it has the Nativity story printed out. But page by page, this is a pop-up book. It definitely has seen some wear. It has been loved by us, but the wear was in it before we received it, and I found 2 more copies, so both of my children have copies of their own. And every Christmas Eve, from the time we received this book, I would read it upside down, like this, most of the time, and after the angels had gone away. I'm not a very good reader in normal conditions. Reading upside down, it's not any better. Although I do plan to record this at some point for posterity. But this wonderful pop-up book became the thing we would do. And what we would do is we would put up the Christmas tree at the beginning of December, and we'd read the pop-up book. And then on Christmas Eve, we would read the pop-up book again. Sometimes we read it multiple times. But who doesn't love a wonderful pop-up book of the Nativity story, reminding us of the reason that we have Christmas, that we celebrate Christmas? And I know there are people who aren't Christians who celebrate other things this time of year. But the message, and this is what's the message, it's universal. The message that Christ taught is a universal message of love and joy and service and peace. And that is the cornerstone of my traditions and the traditions I know, even when all of the rest has to adjust and change, because life adjusts and changes. Even when everything else changes, that message of joy, that message of peace through joy, that message of peace through joy and sharing, and the message of peace through joy, sharing, and giving of our own time and our own talents. That message, that's the tradition. That's what we celebrate. That's how we universally celebrate this time of year. And I know as crafters, sometimes the people we love do not necessarily appreciate a gift of time, our time and talent. I do not suspect that that on the top 10 list of things I want for Christmas, the top 10 bestsellers of Christmas this year, I don't think Grandma's knitted socks are ever going to be at the top of the list. They may not make the top 10. I don't believe that we're ever going to be the trend. But I do believe that we will be what lasts. If we remember to do as my great-grandmothers did, and give a little piece of us, and give a little hug, and give our attention and time, and maybe even a little extra sweet, and help those that we love, whether it is our grandchildren, our brothers and sisters, our friends, the person we meet on the street, the person who had to process my booster shot, and the one who had to give me the booster shot, and the one who had to monitor to make sure that I was fine for 15 minutes after the shot. Even if it is that person that I will never likely run into again, Christmas is about giving them the gift. They are important, and they're valued, and we know who they are, and we love the service they give. And we love the joy they bring. And that is my Christmas message to you. Feel the joy of the season. Feel confident that your attempts to share this joy with others, regardless of the fact that it may not be on the top 10 list, it will last. And it will be the greatest gift you've given. Wishing you joy and a wonderful Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and peace. We'll see you in the new year.